Hello, hello, hello. Video time. The sun is setting. It is 3:58 and the days are now very short and we're coming towards the winter solstice day when we have the shortest day in the year. And that is somewhere in December, I believe. December 20 or something. I forgot. But anyway, I want to talk about the ego. Yes, we all have ego. We have bad ego. We all have really, really serious egos. It is the truth. There is no shame about it, and there is no pride about it. Only the ego has pride in itself. So that is pretty obvious. Yes, it is obvious. Yes. And I have to say that I am eyeballing society with much apprehension and worry because I have never seen a world war in my life. I'm very lucky about this. I have never seen civil unrest until it's been brewing up recently here in the United States, and I see also in Europe, and it seems to be all the way around the globe. And those kind of things that are occurring, whatever kind of thing that occurs, seems to be occurring worldwide as well, because of the way people have evolved and because of information traveling, and now more than ever through internet, of course, everything has been globalized. But there's also something like this, like a telepathic, energetic, morphogenetic field type of law of attraction leveling happening in the world, so that when something happens in one place, then what happened there can telepathically be conveyed to another place somewhere else without them having talked or having seen each other in a video or something like this. So this has been happening, and so it's all of these things combined, okay, that create almost an instant global problem of the same type. Like when I see a specific cloud in the sky, a cloud formation, then 10 minutes later a new cloud forms in exactly the same shape, or in a very, very, very similar shape, or in a shape that is absolutely totally related to the first one. So that's the law of attraction. That's this is a very strange thing also, particularly when it happens on the beach with rocks that are washed on shore, that all have the same theme. So, and that all look like they're one big family. They're all related. It's very, very interesting, these kind of things. You'll think, how come rocks will wash up? Rocks that are not moldable like clouds, So whether it's rocks or trees, or the way the wind blows into shrubs, or the cloud formations, pattern formation, wherever you see patterns, that are in a flux, that I'm not talking about the wallpaper that's always in the same pattern, but you can see things in it. So I see boobs in my wallpaper pattern, but I'm talking about, and that's always there. So I'm talking about the pattern formation that comes from a fluctuation pattern evolution, like the sky, or things that are constantly shifting and moving and churning. So, and they bring with them similarities, and we see it around the world, of course, similar mind states. The internet, of course, brings it across like never before. And then people have these certain ideas, and they jump on board with certain ideas and certain movements. Not just kids, but older people do too, and I find that very unsettling, because we older people, we should know better. We should have learned a little bit more about history. We should have seen already what certain movements can do, the damage it can do to the world, and the damage it can do to people's mind states, particularly children that are still very susceptible to influences from the outside world, particularly feeling like they need to please the adults, they need to please everyone, they need to so that they will be protected and accepted, like a puppy will turn over on his back and get puppy protection from the older dogs and from people. So, and the puppies say, no matter what you say, no matter what you do, I just want a belly rub. I just want you to love me and protect me. So our children are the same way, like the puppies. And the puppies, they're never interested in politics anyway. So they'll always stay perpetual babies. But we are growing up, we humans, and we learn things. And we observe things, and we see, oh, this has gone wrong in the past. I see the same pattern happening right now with something else, with maybe someone from previously, someone from the other side of the spectrum, who previously, let's say, lost a war or something, like the Venusians lost the war to the Martians or something like this. If we want to use a caricature, caricaturistic names for it, or red lost to blue, or whatever you want to call it. And then they turn it around and they practice exactly the identical pattern of this war, of this dualism, of the censorship, of the oppression. They practice exactly the same thing again. No difference. It just happens so that the one who formerly lost the war is this time the oppressor and the tyrant. And maybe even 10 eyes for an eye. Okay, so is that what we want? That is my question to all of you, light workers, angels, indigos, everyone, the baby souls, everyone out. We're all equally precious, and all of those categories that I mentioned, they come in all walks of life. Okay, so they are people from any cultural background, or ethnicity, or gender, or species. There are angel souls and crocodiles, and giraffes, and there's a giraffe on my recliner chair, or any being, dogs, and dogs. There are lots of dogs and God level souls. God level souls in dogs, and angel level souls in dogs. Lots and lots and lots and lots. They have a lot to teach to us. Okay, so But I've also seen a stagnator soul, baby souls in dogs too, So we had a Great Dane. He was a serial murderer. It was also a little bit our own fault because we weren't paying enough attention. We should have paid much more attention, but it's a learning process. But yeah, he was a murderer. He has killed baby kittens. We didn't even know they were baby kittens. There was a stray cat who had a litter. I was in Los Angeles. We dug all of that up because we were cleaning up that place, and we found that nest with baby kittens, and Ludwig came and he grabbed one, and before we could wrestle the kitten out of his mouth, he already bit on it like crunch and killed that poor little baby kitten. And I felt so awful. And he killed an adult cat too, one time walking with them down the street. He grabbed the cat who was sitting on a fence, and awful terrible. And then the person was looking for the cat later on. I felt so bad, and we felt like we should have done it. We should have prevented this. We should have done better, but sometimes the situation comes so quickly at you that how can you prevent it? But I think we didn't have the dogs on the leash, so that was a red bar crossed. So learning experience, I am only walking dogs on chest harness and leash now, so never ever 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 lose. Because we don't know who might come across, and a baby might fall over, you get sued. All kinds of things can go wrong, right? Or a dog could scratch someone's new Ferrari. All kinds of things can go wrong, and much worse. And and the dog could fall somewhere. It's just better to have the dog on a chest harness and the leash, and be responsible. Be responsible earthian stewards. That's all. That's what I advocate. So, yeah, dogs come in all kinds of soul developmental level souls, but I think most of them are angels and indigos and light workers, and there are many of them that have God level, soul level, and maybe even Buddha soul level. So, and one was the infinite cosmos. That is Nirvana, that's Brahma. Okay. And you can see him that sounds like bragging, but it's true. Kenny Redwood was one out of many incarnations from Vishnu, Krishna, Jiddu Krishnamurti, the blue god. Okay, so that was one of his incarnations and reincarnations. And he lived in that spacesuit with us for almost 9 years. So, and that is a great honor for me. And I made videos with him. So, an amazing, amazing person he was. And forever the most mystical and the most metaphysical phase in my life. Okay. And it's wonderful. And the Papa is his baby. The Papa was his soul baby, and they're buried there together under the manzanita tree. So the way we look, who we are in our physical appearance doesn't matter at all. It does not matter. You don't have to compare yourself. You don't have to constantly measuring yourself up to someone else or trying desperately to look like a celebrity and go under the knife, and or be fantastic like in this or that as someone else, and just have these idols and so on. Don't do that, okay? You're already precious and perfect the way you are. Your spacesuit that you came in is your school also. That is your learning ground. You're supposed to learn to make it happen, to make good things happen, in that spacesuit that you come in. Like, this is a good metaphor, the spacesuit. When you die, you take it off. Take that spacesuit off, and it's there, lifelessly. Yeah? You take it on, like this. Now it has a soul in there, my hand, as a metaphor, right? The same with Nicola, okay? Now this hood here is alive because there's a soul in it, in that hood now, my head. And inside of my body is a soul, okay? And the spacesuit is there. It's there to let us experience the world, just like we would slip into an avatar on the internet, and they make these avatars better and better and better. Second Life, you can I think this is very capitalistic, but you can buy yourself, if you want to do it for free, you get this Jane Doe type of avatar, that I don't identify with that. But if I wanted to make my avatar into that what I find really cool, let's say a white tiger, then I have to pay money for it. But then once I have bought this avatar, then I can wander around that space of Second Life virtual reality. And I can fly, and I can do all kinds of things. I can end up at some kind of seminar, which is actually happening, so there is someone like, let's say, Ray Kurzweil or Elon Musk. I don't know if they're in Second Life, but let's say they are giving a presentation in Second Life, then you can go there. Probably cost another $100 or something to attend. So that's how they keep this updated and make it better and better and better. So they, of course, they have to make their money with this. But yeah, I think it's kind of neat, and some people, they kind of flee into this world, and then some other people like Elon Musk, they say that maybe there's a possibility that we too are in a simulation. This is all a video game. This is just some kind of Second Life virtual reality that every one of us had been created by some person, some hacker, some alien hacker created us. So, and then people say, that's our creator. Don't be blasphemous. No. Well, then I have to ask, so maybe if someone created us like that, then someone else created that creator too. And that will go on like a mirror in the mirror, 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 in the mirror. It just keeps going on and on and on and on. And that is math, and that has a name that is called fractal geometry. Okay, and because there are fractals that can be blown up, and that they too will have fractals, and those can be blown up, and they have a very similar shape, and they too can be blown up, and their fractals can be blown up. They have the same similar shape, or maybe identical shape, and then just keeps perpetuating itself into either the macrocosmos or the microcosmos, into eternity, just like infinity number sequences. Infinity is infinity is infinity is infinity. We don't even need to make some calculations out of it. It's just an 8 on the side. It's infinity. Okay? It keeps on going, and that's a wonderful thing. So there's no beginning, there's no end to the infinite cosmos. So, and that's a wonderful thing. That's not scary or anything. And I don't know if this should not be frightening. This should not be perceived as frightening. Maybe the ego finds it a little unsettling. But, it's the ego that we want to relax. When I say relax, ego, you are living in this head of that person who has a living spacesuit on. I always call them these are our living spacesuits, with skin and everything. It's a biological machine. It's highly complex. It's very metaphysical. It's so complex that we cannot wrap our heads around it. There's so much complex stuff going on inside of our brains particularly, but the whole inside of the whole body, and the interactiveness of all of that with our outside environment. Just getting grounded every day, on the grass. Just that is like the perfect example of what I'm talking about. How this body, this spacesuit, needs to be grounded outside on the grass. This is a necessity. This is so much a necessity as it is to breathe in air. That's how much it is a necessity. Because I heard some terrible stories. There were people that were so toxic on the inside and so constipated and so depressed and so to the point where they almost couldn't move anymore. They would just be sitting on their couch, completely insulated from the earth, not grounded at all. Never grounded, just watching TV, getting bombarded with electromagnetic radiation. All kinds of the TVs in the past were particularly bad. And those cases, they're very, very rare cases. They were like, maybe 3 or 4 cases in the world. And that was, I think, around the 50s and 60s when that happened. For very rare cases of people, women and men, who actually had electric shocks on the inside, really, really electric shocks on the inside, because they were so charged up with electromagnetic radiation that their own electricity got ignited, and they actually literally burned up from the inside out. These people, kind of like a robot, almost, like a robot who implodes, or who kind of has short wiring and it's just slowly burning up its own internal cables. And that's what happened to those people. And that's one very bizarre and extreme and a very, very loud way of saying this can happen if you don't get grounded. This is a very loud illness and death that says to the world, this can happen if you don't ground yourself every day for at least 10 minutes. That's the absolute minimum. You can, because that's what you can handle in the winter on the ground if you wear really thick clothes. Today was good. The sun was shining. It was warmer. The grass was first wet, but it evaporated very quickly from the sun. I lied down with my winter clothes. They're water repellent on the wet grass. Felt really good. I put my face into the grass, and then the grass became very, very, very warm and wonderful, and I ate my oatmeal outside with banana slices on top. Paul made that for me, and it was wonderful. I was watching the birds. 3 quails came to visit us today, and they make such lovely sounds, like they were talking to each other. And then Paul went out and gave them some sunflower seeds to eat. So it is very important, this is my message to all people and all haters out there, haters from all walks of life. And Friedrich Nietzsche, I was thinking about Friedrich Nietzsche earlier. Friedrich Nietzsche always warned people about this, what he called slave morality. What he means by that, this is not attached to a specific demographic. Okay, so almost all humans are enslaved mentally. That's what Friedrich Nietzsche was talking about. We need to avoid slave morality. Slave morality is, and he was particularly observing that in the evangelical church, the Martin Luther instigated movement. Martin Luther, the German monk from around 1500. This idea of, this person is poor, let me always cater to that poor person, and that poor person, and that poor person, and then the poor person goes, I'm entitled because I'm poor. So I'm poor, that is my mental illness, and now I'm entitled to governmental support. Okay, that's slave morality. Okay, we need to avoid this. We're not helping that person by catering to this never-ending, yes, you poor thing, we need to help you, the ego loves that. The ego sucks that up in the people who do the pitying, And then the poor person, he doesn't feel good to him, but he doesn't see who the villain is. He thinks the villain is the Karen who comes along and says, wait a minute, waving her finger. This ain't right. This, we can't be catering to this person that just damaged an entire store out of unempowerment feelings. So he thinks the Karen is the bad person. He doesn't understand the Karen is caring. That's what the name means, okay? That she wants him to empower himself, You empower yourself, then you don't have to go into a store and take an iron club and beat everything in, and the cash registers and all the items in there, and steal the computers and say, I'm entitled to all of this. No, you are not. You're not entitled to it. If we want to heal the wounds of the past, and there are many wounds, and we need to acknowledge the wounds, but let's not make a slave morality out of it and go, I'm entitled to this. No, they owe me. No, they don't. They do not owe you anything. None of us is from that era of actual enslavement. Okay? We have nothing to do. We're like 3rd, 4th generation. Okay? And you continue this, you perpetuate this war. Okay? In the Middle East, a perfect example. A perpetuated war that goes from generation to generation to generation. Okay? When can we finally end this? We can only end it if we finally acknowledge ourselves and our spacesuits as valuable, precious, infinitely loved by the infinite cosmos. Okay? And And we need to acknowledge that the other is infinitely precious too. And the other suffers too. The other, so, people setting fires because they feel unempowered, they feel entitled, they feel like they need to revolt. Guess what happens? Innocent animals dying up in the forest. Not cool at all. Not cool at all. Then the Karen comes along and says, this is not cool, folks. This ain't going anywhere, okay? And then you shoot the Karen. But you are not shooting the actual sneaky, malignant narcissist who laughs himself to the bank and to some fundraiser dinners from ExxonMobil. In the meantime, he, cashes in, he does all kinds of things, that he calls humanitarian. This is something that I really, really hate. That's just this whole word, humanitarian, philanthropy. That comes straight from the malignant narcissist, sorry. And from the malignant narcissists, politicians. It's their pitiful act out, okay, that they do with other people. But the unempowered person sees them as their protectors and caregivers. I'm not going to mention any names because then I get into hot water. But as they always, that is what the unempowerment mind state and the ego does, and the malignant narcissist, that they all do the same thing. They go after the wrong people. Okay, they went after Donald Trump, which was wrong, okay, because Donald Trump is a caring, if you want to call him Karen, okay, a caring angel soul, okay, who came here to help, and he helped a whole freaking lot, but you don't see it, you don't see it. But anyway, it's like, and the media, they know exactly how to talk to your ego and get your ego on board. And not only that, they actually do what Charles Manson did, and what Charles Manson went to solitary confinement for his entire life for. They do basically the same things. So the Muslim agenda, and I have to say, call the kid by the name. I'm not going to call the other actual names that are involved in it, because then I get sued and whatever. I get into trouble. They'll come to the door and they'll shoot me before my time is up. So I think I have another 8 or 10 years with that, until I get actually shot in the head. I want to do some good in the meantime until that happens. So please let me, okay, so we can help make the world a little bit better, okay. And I'm not like the only messiah or something, it always sounds like it. I am definitely not. There are messiahs out there that are much more evolved than I am. I'm just one of them. I'm an indigo. I'm one of them. One of the truther clowns. The clown is the truth speaker, by the way. The clown's also very, very, very depressed and sad person. Very often, the clown tries to cheer the clown tries to make you feel better. Okay, so you better have some respect for the clowns. So, clowning around. So. The clown is also what Friedrich Nietzsche calls the child, the real childlike nature. Okay, so people are camels, they become lions, and then they have to become the children again. You can't stay in the rage stage. I've been in the rage stage myself. I've gone through that evolution myself. I have become a child again, so in all the good ways. Okay, I've also been a child in the bad ways in the past. Of course, I've been very reckless. So, but we learn, this is a school, learning experience, okay? And I share my mistakes with other people so that that other people can learn from it and not have to reinvent the wheel, not reinvent those mistakes for themselves, but not make those mistakes in the first place. And I have learned from other people's mistakes as a child, and I was very careful not to go with a stranger who was giving me a lollipop, for example. So that's why I am still here, okay? And unfortunately and horrifically, tragically, there are other little girls, one in particular who looked exactly, almost identical to me when I was a child, JonBenét Ramsey, who did get murdered, okay, in a horrific way. Okay, I cried rivers over that case. When I saw her photos, I saw myself. They bleached her hair blonde. I think she had brown hair too, like I did. But she had blue eyes, I had brown eyes. But we looked almost identical, as children. So her life was taken because her parents did not teach her, did not protect her. Okay, and I don't know. I don't wanna be too harsh with the judge hammer. I don't know those people. I don't know what kind of things went on in their brains. I don't know who was the murderer, and I just know that the mother has received so much hatred from people that were also really legitimately enraged, of course. And the fact that she got breast cancer and died or I think uterine cancer, when that happens, when that affects the reproductive organs, that means that she had she basically died from grief, okay, over her little daughter. So that's how that is interconnected. For total, extreme grief and deep regrets. So maybe the mother was not the one, but she was definitely so extremely neurotic that she was not able to protect her daughter and say, don't go with a stranger that offers you a lollipop or a chocolate or something. But they were immersed in societies out there in Utah that are so sick that I could never even imagine how sick those societies are. And Teal Swan talks about this. She is a survivor from those societies. Okay, she sheds light on what's going on in those societies. And JonBenét Ramsey is a victim of those societies. Very, very, very horrible. There are some other people that have come to the surface that talk about it, that are survivors of this. Most people that have experienced abuse, like ritual abuse and stuff like this, they have not survived. But I'm not gonna get into that subject right now. So all I need to say to this is it is human neurosis exponentialized. That's all. We really need to understand it as that what it is. And we need to also understand our own neurosis, and Teal Swan made an amazing video just recently and said something very, 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 very strong and very, very radical for most people, very radical. For me, I already knew, this is very clear, but very, very important that it needed to be said publicly. She said that when people end up in cults, then not in a very direct, but in a rather indirect way, the family is also to be blamed for that. And with everything, there's I always have to say this as a disclaimer. Nobody is really to be blamed ultimately, because as Robert Sapolsky said, Dr. Robert Sapolsky, Stanford University professor for neuroscience, has said that we do not have free will. Okay, so ultimately, if we look at it from farther away, the way we act in life has to do with our brain chemistry, our neurochemistry, our neuronal connections, our brain anatomy. Okay, so that's really what runs this spacesuit, is our brain anatomy. And the brain anatomy is then also functioning according to what we learn. So, two people with different brain anatomy can learn exactly the same thing, but one makes this out of it and the other person makes something else out of it. One person becomes a drug addict with that same information because their brain anatomy is different and brain chemistry is different, and they fall into some kind of glitch in this system of information where they don't recognize that information. For example, when I talk about grounding, one person will say, oh, this is just quackery. So while the other person with a much more sophisticated brain anatomy, much more advanced brain anatomy, will recognize that instantly as truth and say, oh my gosh, yes, I have missed out on this. I better get started with this right away, and seize the importance of this action and really listening, really hearing, what that person says. We can be taught the same thing. That we had a book when I was a child, when I was 11 years old, and in my class there was this book going around, like this cult book, Wir Kinder vom Bahnhof Zoo, which translates to We Children from Bahnhof Zoo, Berlin. And that was the drug scene back in the 70s, the early 70s. And this girl who survived this drug scene later on was able to co-write a book with someone else, with a very experienced writer, and she told him her entire story, and he documented it in a book. And this book went viral before the internet. Just the book by itself traveled very, very quickly, because we all were, those were kids that were, I don't know, like our older siblings, they're all our older cousins. They're the ones that had already been teenagers, and we were just coming into teenage years, and we were always looking up, and we were always interested to hear about teenagers who had already been through the teenage years. And of course, because we wanted to know more about ourselves, we had so many questions about our own body growing faster than our minds, and the boys looking, and the brain was still a child, like, why are the boys looking at me? This is frightening. Why are they groping me? And all of this. And we just wanted to learn as much as we could. And so this book went around, and different kids read the same book, right? One kid would end up, I don't know what happened to all of my classmates, but I'm just saying this, hypothetically, that this book has probably been in the hands in Germany, maybe been translated into other languages, but it has been through many teenage girls' hands in Germany. And maybe, I'm just saying, I don't know, maybe it saved everyone, but I would postulate that there's always a probability that it might not have saved everyone. Just to use this as an example, There may have been kids that read the book and just thought this was cool, what this Christiane went through, okay? So, and they thought that was exciting, and they wanted to end their lives in this way, or they wanted to end up on this drug scene. And Calvin Klein making this huge mistake on picking up this drug scene theme for his fashion design and for his fashion photos and videos, and I find that extremely unethical. Okay, he has corpses in the cellar. Because of him, women have died. Women have become drug addicts and also anorexic. They have gotten mentally ill with anorexia nervosa and died from that alone, and also taken drugs and also taken methamphetamine that played into the anorexia as well, because that's what it does to people. It makes 100-year-old women out of 14-year-old girls, that drug. I am not exaggerating this. And Calvin Klein thinking this is somehow fashionable or somehow chic or somehow has an allure or something. And that's what the problem is. That is a real serious problem. This man is responsible for a lot of suffering because of that. I don't know if he's aware of this. I used to love his perfumes. I was a huge fan of his perfume obsession. So I'm not just condemning this entire person, and I'm saying he's probably not even aware what he's doing, but he needs to be told. Otherwise, how can we learn from our mistakes? If we are not told, look, man, you are telling kids, they look up to you. You are telling kids that it is cool to look like a skeleton with the collarbone showing, and be on meth or on cocaine. You're telling them to go ahead with that. This makes you responsible for what's happening, for the suffering that they cause other people, other living beings. They might neglect their animals. All kinds of suffering that goes into this as a domino effect. Okay, this is making the world terrible. Okay, we want to turn this around and make the world good. That is my mission in my life. Okay, and the ego is such an enormous hindrance, and stands in such resistance and stark opposition to making the world better. Because the ego, any kind of ego, whether it's a medical doctor who has developed his identity on serving the pharma industry, will be in resistance against it. Also be in resistance because he gets kickbacks from the pharma, from toxic drugs, for distributing, pushing toxic drugs on people, gets kickback. So he will be in terrible resistance. The pharma corporations will be in terrible resistance. I've gotten death threats already. I've gotten so much hate you cannot possibly imagine. I thought, wow, those people are more fierce than the fundamentalists. It's insane what's going on with the ego. And the ego is, it is a perpetuated mechanism of defending that what they have identified themselves with, and you are not identified with it in truth. Your spacesuit is not identified with being a medical doctor or being a CEO of Pfizer, okay, or Monsanto or Bayer. You are a spacesuit. You are a natural spacesuit. You are another animal, a human ape. You are a being on this planet. Okay? And you need to love yourself for who you are. And don't go under the knife. Okay? Then you're not even you anymore. Okay? Be you and value yourself for you. It will be very interesting when I get wrinklier and wrinklier and wrinklier. If I'm still alive by then, that would be very interesting. I'm like, oh, one day I'm like 80 years old and I will still be making videos, and the haters will go, you ugly bitch, and you know what they will say. They'll say I look like 500 years old. They always have to exaggerate it to make me suffer, because they're in resistance to what I have to say. So, particularly Islam, it's like they have identified themselves with that, to the point where if you take this facade of identification away, they feel like they plunge into nothingness. They feel like they don't even exist anymore. They feel deleted, basically. But you are not deleted. See, that's the thing. There were some brave people that shed that ridded themselves of this destructive facade Islam. Okay? One woman who she talked about this very openly and honestly, and she said that it did make her feel. She became an atheist, and that is, the intermediate, what Friedrich Nietzsche calls the lion's roar stage. And you have to go through this. Some people have to go through that stage. That's a bottleneck stage. It's an ego dissolution funnel stage, to go through that stage, atheism. So don't be hard on them. Okay, so my husband is still in that stage. It's okay. That's where he has to be. Some people have to be in that stage maybe for the rest of their life. But that's a stage that doesn't hurt anyone, and it doesn't chop anyone's heads off. Okay, at least, unless it's made into a tyrant dictatorship, such as Kim Jong-un. But here in the Western world, the atheists are not coming after you with the Quran or with pitchforks. Okay, it's the other ones. Okay, it's the religious ones. So let them have their lion's roar stage. Okay, and this woman is very courageous, and she took this chador off and she threw it in the trash can. She made videos about it, and she said it was hard. It was hard it felt like, that was the only thing she had as an identification. That was her culture, basically. Culture is ego. All culture is ego. And people always go, yeah, but that's their culture, leave them alone. No. Culture is ego. Culture is neurosis. Okay? You can have a peaceful culture of drinking different teas and having jingles and bells and incense, okay? As long as it is peaceful, it doesn't hurt anyone. But if your culture cuts the clitoris off girls and sews it together, sorry, that's where I have a problem with it, okay? That's what's happening in Nigeria. It's a horror, okay? Should not be tolerated. But then people are afraid, oh, I might be labeled racist. Oh, then what? And oh, then my friends are not going to invite me to the party. No. You are a living being. And your body wants peace and love. Your body does not want these girls to have their clitoris mutilated. Okay? So shed the ego, be your natural person, be the father and the mother of earth, and stand up for justice and say something about it. Okay, become a living being rights activist. Okay, for all living beings, and stand up. That's what I do. Okay, so I stand up for all of you beings, and this is not some kind of taboo. That's their culture. No, that's a monstrous psychopathic culture, if you want to call it. Okay, it has to end. Islam has to end. It is brutal. It is violent. Okay, violence has to end. Okay, so we have to end this. End this facade and the identification with all of this. Come back to who you are. The animal, the mammal, the precious living being loved by the infinite cosmos, the inner child, the real you, okay? The crocodile, the person, whoever you are, okay, out there. A dog, a cat, any being, okay? You are that natural being, okay? You stand up for the croc is not going to understand this cognitively, of course. But you can understand this cognitively, what I say, okay? You, human ape, watching people's videos, you have enough brain capacity, much more than he does, okay? You can understand this. If you really listen, if you take the time, okay? So listen to people's videos, not just my video. There are other people, Vera Wilhelmsen, okay? And other people. I will put links under the Teal Swan. And there's another girl, I forgot the name, I think her name is Anna. I will put the name under the video and the link to their videos, okay? Watch all of these people. They have a lot to say, okay? Particularly there's a lot of women now, strong women, angel souls and God level souls coming into the world that are coming to help. Listen to them, okay? So you guys take care.